They thought they buried you under silence, thought if they threw enough shade, lies and noise your way, you'd never rise. They didn't just try to distract you, they designed every move to break you. Not physically, not directly, but slowly, with fake smiles, empty praise, and 1,000 little ways of making you question yourself. They wanted you confused, invisible. They didn't want you to disappear, they wanted to erase you. But you were never one of them. You just hadn't remembered it yet. And now they're the ones who can't sleep, because the one they tried to shut down has returned, with eyes wide open and a mind sharper than ever. Every lie they told about you is starting to fall apart. And the scariest part for them, you haven't even spoken yet. When a chosen one wakes up, it's not loud, it's lethal. You don't need to shout to destroy the fake world they built. Your silence speaks louder than anything they ever said. Your presence alone makes their comfort shake. They called you weak, software, easy to control. But what they missed is that your quiet wasn't fear. It was fire being built in silence. Now they're realizing that all the pressure they used to crush you only made you more focused, stronger, colder. And every move you make now is a reminder that their little games didn't work. Every step you take forward chips away at the fake image they tried to sell to the world. Before moving ahead, I want to pause and thank every soul who supported this mission through Super Thanks. Your generosity isn't just kindness, it's spiritual alignment. It shows you see through the noise and you stand with truth. You're not just watching, you're walking in purpose. Your light helps this message reach others who feel buried, forgotten, or silenced. Because of you, that silence is breaking. If something inside you knows this awakening is real, if you feel chosen, guided, and ready, quietly affirm it. Comment 999 below, not for attention, but as a sign. You're aligned, awakened, and walking in divine purpose. Number 1. Stop letting them silence you. They fear the voice you haven't fully used yet. They just made it look that way. What they were actually trying to stop was something far bigger. You became the face of a threat they couldn't define. Not because of your name, not because of your voice, but because of what moves through you. They thought they were silencing one person, but what they really did was challenge the current. And no one wins a fight against what flows beyond human reach. They sensed it early. That's why the attacks came when you were still soft. That's why your life felt heavier when others were coasting. You were marked, not cursed. They felt your frequency before you even knew it had a name. And the scariest part for them, you've started to remember. You've started to rise. And with every step you take, the false systems they built begin to crack. They didn't fear your opinions. They feared your impact. They feared what would happen if even one person like you woke up, stood tall, and stopped apologizing for being different. Because you weren't just walking around minding your business, you were carrying a signal that disrupts everything fake, everything false, everything built on control. Your light turns hidden things visible. Your presence exposes illusions. That's why they tried to keep you in confusion, why you were surrounded by betrayal, chaos, and moments that made no sense. It wasn't random, it was intentional. The more you suffered, the more they hoped you'd break. But pain doesn't break the chosen, it awakens them. You didn't fall apart, you fell into place. You didn't burn out, you became fire itself. And now that fire, it's spreading. You're not dangerous because you shout. You're dangerous because you know. You know who you are. You know what they did. And you know what comes next. That knowing is the collapse of their illusion. You've triggered alarms inside a system that was designed to make people sleep. But you're not here to sleep. You're here to interrupt. You're not here to follow. You're here to flip the script. So if you're still wondering, why me? Why so many attacks? The answer is simple. Because you carry what can't be copied. What they tried to contain, twist or erase is now turning into something too powerful to control. You're not a glitch in their system. You are the correction. Let them fear your return. Let them shake at the sound of your calm. Because the moment you stepped back into your truth, their power over you ended. And the game? It's already falling apart. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, if it helped you remember who you are, take a quiet moment to like and subscribe, not for numbers, but as a small act of alignment, a signal that you're walking in purpose now. Number 2. Wake up now, they're terrified, because you're finally seeing what was hidden. Your doubt was their weapon, and the only time they ever had a chance to win. Not because they were stronger, not because they outsmarted you, but because they got you to second-guess your own fire. That was the trick. The only way to dim a sun is to convince it it's just another shadow, and that's exactly what they tried to do to you. They didn't have the power to silence your soul. So instead they whispered just loud enough to make you question your own voice. They couldn't put out your light, so they made you carry the extinguisher. They made you doubt your brilliance, your passion, your depth. They didn't break you. They simply rewired your view of yourself. You weren't too much, you weren't too loud, you weren't too intense, you were just too real for a world built on pretending. And that terrified them. They placed you around people who couldn't see your worth, hoping you'd stop looking for it. They handed you mirrors designed to blur your reflection, hoping you'd mistake your gifts for flaws. But make no mistake, your doubt wasn't natural. It was planted, cultivated, engineered, and every time you held back, they celebrated quietly. Because how else do you stop someone you can't overpower? You trick them into playing small. They didn't fear your words. They feared your clarity, your ability to feel deeper, see sharper, speak truer. Your light wasn't the problem, it was the threat. You weren't too sensitive, you were tuned in. You weren't overthinking, you were decoding. Your energy didn't scare them because it was chaotic. It scared them because it was accurate. The truth is, they couldn't handle what you reflect. Your light reveals what they're still hiding from. And now that you're starting to see yourself clearly again, the illusion is collapsing. You were never created to be quiet. You were built to be remembered. So take your light back, own it fully. Because once you stop apologizing for who you are, they lose their last weapon, and all they'll have left is fear. Number 3. Don't scroll past. This, your reaction, isn't just support, it's a weapon. They made you believe being left out meant you were broken, that not being invited in meant you didn't belong. But here's the truth, they didn't want you to figure out. Being removed wasn't the wound, it was the weapon. Chosen ones don't get lost in the crowd, they get pulled from it. You weren't being abandoned, you were being upgraded. While you sat in silence wondering why the noise stopped, the answer was simple. Noise blocks clarity. And the force behind your path needed you clear. No distractions, no outside static, no borrowed identities. Just you and the signal within you getting sharper, stronger, louder. At first, it hurt. Of course it did. You were taught that constant company meant value, that being surrounded meant being wanted. But what no one told you is this. When you carry something rare, you get hidden before you get revealed. You get shaped in private. You get stripped of the extra so what's real can finally rise. That isolation, it wasn't a punishment, it was precision. Think about it. The world never gives immediate applause to the ones meant to rewrite the rules. And you were never meant to play by theirs. You weren't just pulled away from people, you were pulled out of patterns. You weren't meant to blend in, you were meant to disturb the comfort zone. That's why they couldn't hear you. That's why they left. You were vibrating on a frequency their fear couldn't hold. Let them go. Let the silence teach. Because every second you thought you were forgotten, you were actually being remembered by something far greater. You weren't isolated to fall apart. You were set apart to level up. And now that the noise is gone, you can finally hear yourself. Finally feel the signal that's always been inside you. Not everyone was supposed to walk with you, and that's not loss, that's alignment. So if you're still in the quiet, stay there. Let it mold you, let it sharpen you. Because when you re-enter the world, you won't be searching for a place. You'll be carrying the frequency they were never ready for. And this time, they won't overlook you. They'll feel you coming. Number 4. Quit bowing to systems built to break you. You were meant to shatter them. Not with violence, but with noise. They knew they couldn't match your frequency, so they did everything possible to throw it off. They didn't attack your body. They went for your focus. Your clarity was the real threat. So they hit you where it would hurt the most. Your mind, your peace, your time. Ever notice how every time you got close to peace, chaos showed up? How every moment of clarity was interrupted by someone's drama, someone's problem, someone's pull on your energy? That wasn't random. That was a tactic. They didn't need to destroy you, they just needed to keep you too distracted to realize who you are. Because your energy, it's not just rare, it's transformative. When you walk into a space fully aligned, things shift, lies collapse, manipulators get nervous, systems built on control start to shake, and they couldn't afford that. So what did they do? They flooded you with distractions, fake friendships, confusing emotions, pointless tasks, people who drained you, problems that weren't even yours. And while you were busy putting out fires, they were stealing your focus, your time, your alignment. You weren't lazy, you were overstimulated. You weren't broken, you were being pulled in too many wrong directions. The plan was simple: scatter your energy so you'd never sit still long enough to feel your power again. But now you're seeing it. Every time you pull back your energy, distractions try to rush in. Old habits resurface. People from the past pop up. Drama knocks on your door even when you've gone quiet. That's not coincidence, that's resistance. It means your power is coming back online. And when a chosen one gets focused, it's game over. Number 5. Stop mistaking pain for punishment. It was the universe training you for war. Not because you were weak, but because you were marked. They hit you early, not to destroy you, but to delay you. Before you even knew who you were, they knew. They saw a spark they couldn't explain, so they moved fast. Not with open attacks, but with silent damage. Emotional warfare dressed up as life. Chaos wrapped in the familiar. Confusion fed to you as normal. They didn't want you destroyed. That would have been too obvious. They wanted you just awake enough to function, but too wounded to question. Just alive enough to perform, but too broken to rise. The plan was never to kill your body. The real goal was to break your belief in yourself, to make you doubt your reflection. And if they could plant that early, during your most open, trusting years, it would grow roots too deep to see. That was the strategy. Your early life was not just bad luck. It was a system, a carefully designed one. They gave you people who didn't protect you, environments that made you feel invisible, pain without language, trauma without answers. Why? Because if you ever connected the dots, you'd wake up. And once a chosen one wakes up, the game is over. But here you are, still standing, still asking questions. And that's what they never planned for. You didn't break, you broke through. The same pain they thought would silence you. It's now your clarity, your strength, your proof. Every scar they hoped would shame you, you now wear as armor. Every lie they planted, you're ripping it out, root by root. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, if it helped you remember who you are, take a quiet moment to like and subscribe, not for numbers, but as a small act of alignment, a signal that you're walking in purpose now. Number 6. Don't try to fit in. You were designed to burn down every lie in the room. Your pain was never just pain. It was a plan. It wasn't random. It wasn't bad luck. It was built. It was calculated. They hit you early for a reason, because if they could keep you confused long enough, you'd never look deeper. They weren't trying to break your body. They were trying to block your becoming. Your pain wasn't personal. It was a setup. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. You thought you were just unlucky, that maybe life just dealt you a difficult hand. But no, what you lived through was a system of emotional warfare, a strategy, a pattern, designed to keep you just awake enough to keep moving, but too numb to question why it all hurt so much. They didn't want you fully broken. That would have been too obvious. They wanted you half alive, still breathing, still doubting, still serving a system that needed your silence. They hit you when you were young, when you didn't have the words to fight back, when you were still open, still forming. They made sure the first people who should have protected you didn't. That wasn't bad luck. That was by design. They knew if they got to you early, they could rewrite your self-worth before you ever had a chance to know it. That way, by the time your power started to rise, you'd already be ashamed of your light. But here's where their plan backfires. You didn't stay broken. You started asking questions. You started connecting the pain to patterns. And once a chosen one stops blaming themselves and starts decoding the attacks, it's game over. You weren't cursed. You were marked. You weren't punished. You were prepared. They hit you early to stop what you're becoming now. But it's too late. Because now you're using the very pain they gave you as fuel. You're seeing clearly, and once you see, you can't unsee. You've stopped running from your pain and started rising through it. And every step forward shakes the ground they built on your suffering. You're no longer surviving, you're becoming. And now, they're terrified. Number 7. Realize this fast. They weren't fighting you. They were battling what walks with you. You thought you were cursed, but you were being protected the whole time. Every delay, every rejection, every door that slammed in your face wasn't punishment. It was precision. What didn't happen for you wasn't a failure. It was a shield. A force bigger than you was clearing your path in silence. The relationships that ended, the jobs that slipped through your fingers, the opportunities that crumbled at the last second. It all felt unfair, didn't it? But now, looking back, you're starting to see it. None of it was random. It was all strategy. You weren't being punished. You were being preserved. See, chosen ones don't just receive things. They are aligned with things. And alignment means everything around you must match your energy, your purpose, and your future. If something threatens that, even if it looks perfect on the surface, it becomes a target for removal. You didn't lose it because you weren't good enough. You lost it because it wasn't built to carry your truth. And yes, in the moment, it felt like pain, like failure, like some invisible curse had been placed over your life. You watched others move forward with half your depth, half your heart. You saw them win while you kept hitting invisible walls. And you asked, why me? But here's the truth. You were being filtered, protected, redirected. Not everyone who claps for you is safe for your spirit. Not every open door leads to growth. Not every connection deserves your energy. Some things had to fall apart early before they became traps disguised as blessings. Some people had to leave before you built a future around their lies. You weren't cursed. You were carried, covered, guarded like something sacred. And now that you're beginning to see the pattern, you understand. It all broke to protect your rise. Your path isn't about convenience, it's about impact. And impact requires alignment, strength, and clarity. That's why you didn't get everything you wanted. You got what would shape you. You got what would build you. Number 8. Never confuse being chosen with being liked. One awakens you, the other weakens you. From the very start, the real battle wasn't about your money, your job, your followers, or your lifestyle. Those were distractions, smoke and mirrors. The real war was always for your perception, because if they could take control of how you saw yourself, they didn't need to steal your crown. You'd hand it over willingly, not knowing it was ever yours. They didn't use weapons to destroy you, they used thoughts. And they didn't shout those thoughts. They whispered them again and again until you believed they were your own. You're not enough. You're too much. You'll never get there. No one cares. These were not your ideas. These were implants. Viruses fed to you by environments, trauma, and repetition. They needed your mind as their battlefield because they knew one truth. If you ever saw yourself clearly, completely, you'd be unstoppable. You didn't need bars to be locked down if you doubted every step you took. You didn't need chains if you believed your dreams were foolish. They didn't need to silence you, just convince you no one was listening. And while they fed you confusion, the world clapped. Because this system was never built to empower chosen ones. It was built to keep them entertained, exhausted, and distracted. But here's what they didn't see coming. Your system is rebooting. The fog is clearing. That voice in your head, you're finally asking, whose voice is this? You're catching the patterns, rewriting the code. And though the change may feel slow, subtle, or strange, it's shaking their world. Because a clear-thinking chosen one is their worst nightmare. What used to scare you? You now walk through without blinking. What used to trigger you? You now see straight through. Your clarity is their collapse. And the more you remember, the more their illusion fades. Your mind was never weak. It was wired with purpose. And now that you're seeing through the noise, they know the firewall is broken. You're awake, you're aligned. And this time, you're not going back to sleep. Number 9. Learn to walk in silence. Your energy destroys without speaking a word. Learn to walk in silence, because silence is where your real power lives. The ones who once underestimated you thought your quiet was weakness. What they didn't understand is that silence is strategy. Your silence isn't empty. It's pressure. It's precision. It's the invisible force that tears through fake confidence and ego-driven noise. Chosen ones don't need to shout. Your energy speaks long before your mouth does. You enter a room and shift the mood. People feel your presence before you even say hello. That's not coincidence. That's frequency. That's what terrifies them. You don't have to argue to win. You don't have to prove anything. Your very existence disrupts their illusion. They tried to get reactions out of you. They wanted your energy, your focus, your voice. Because deep down they knew, once you stopped explaining yourself, once you stopped trying to be understood, they had no power left. You weren't just a person to them. You were a mirror, a reminder of everything they couldn't fake, copy, or control. And now you've become unshakable. Because silence gave you clarity. And clarity made you untouchable. You don't play the game anymore. You walk around it, above it, through it, quietly watching everything crumble on its own. You see, real power doesn't announce itself, it just arrives. And chosen ones carry that silent kind of danger, the kind you don't see coming, but once it hits, it changes everything. While they waste energy trying to get attention, you're building momentum in the dark. That's why your growth feels so threatening to them. You're not loud, you're effective. And here's the truth. When you stop defending yourself, people have nothing left to attack. When you stop reacting, they lose access to your power. Silence doesn't mean passive. It means prepared. It means focused. It means dangerous. So keep walking quietly. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Your energy is doing the work your words never had to. And by the time they realize how serious your silence really was, it'll be too late. You're not here to explain yourself. You're here to be felt. And trust me, they feel you now, ready for the next one whenever you are. Number 10. If you're still playing small, you're letting the illusion win. Drop 77 and end that game. You're feeding a system that was designed to keep you quiet, confused, and controlled. The moment you shrink yourself, second-guess your worth, or wait for permission to rise, you're giving power back to the same forces that tried to erase you. Chosen ones were never made to blend in. You were meant to rattle cages just by showing up. You were built to shift energy without lifting a finger. But as long as you keep apologizing for your presence, softening your truth, and dimming your fire, you're doing their job for them. And that's the trap. They don't need to silence you when you silence yourself. They don't need to stop you when they can just convince you to stop. That's how they win. Not with force, with fear, with shame, with self-doubt. And they know that as long as you keep shrinking, they stay in control. But here's what breaks their game. When you stop asking who's watching, when you stop waiting for approval, when you stop watering down your voice just to make other people comfortable, that's when the shift happens. That's when the illusion starts to fall apart. Every time you step into your full power without apology, you shake something loose in this world. You send a signal that the spell is breaking, that the chosen ones are rising, and when one of us rises fully, others start waking up too. So let this be the moment you stop playing small. Let this be the end of the game. Drop 77 in the comments right now, not for attention, not for hype, but as a personal declaration that you're done hiding, that you're done pretending, that you're stepping fully into what you were always meant to be. They never expected you to get this far. They thought you'd stay stuck in doubt. But here you are, awake, watching, ready. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, if it helped you remember who you are, take a quiet moment to like and subscribe, not for numbers, but as a small act of alignment, a signal that you're walking in purpose now.